Hello and welcome to class 17 of my course on physics 2. And so far we have spent 15 classes in only talking about quantum mechanics 2. Now from the last day onwards, we have started applying quantum mechanics 2 in the most modern computation, as you know, namely the quantum computation. So we have already started our journey in quantum computation. And as I often mention, it is the most modern computation. It is beyond the boundary of the classical computation, I should say now. That is binary system, binary logic, the Boolean logic, 0-1 logic, the high-low logic, off-on logic, whatever you say. Whatsoever you are learning and the related algorithms you are learning in the regular courses of your own papers, this is somewhat different because here the foundation is altogether different. The concept of bits, okay, binary digits, and now they transform to quantum bits, okay, because these here bits refers to some quantum mechanical states. So the basic origin of the entire study of this is lies in quantum mechanics. So what I did, because you know quantum mechanics a bit now, we have actually focused on how to include the topics of quantum mechanics, how to apply them, okay, in the formation of this quantum computation. So what we did that day, actually last day, this is me. I told you quantum mechanics have got two approaches. One is the approach you have already dealt with, the approach of Schrodinger, where the basis, the wave function you define with the mathematical function psi. Psi is just a function of mathematics, and we solved some problem also. We have checked which function is acceptable, which is able to represent a matter, which is not able. And on the contrary, there is another approach, another route also, that is called Heisenberg approach of operators, where the basic foundation is that the wave function, the basic variable of quantum mechanics, is not represented by a mathematical function. Rather, it is represented by a vector, state vector. This is called vector state vector representation. It is represented by a symbol kate vector representation. You see, as I have written here, it is kate of psi. And it is ultimately the kate vector is an element of a linear vector space. So therefore your basic mathematical background gets changed now in this Heisenberg approach, and the point is that entire quantum computation based on your study in the Heisenberg approach, okay, or based on, that means based on your fundamental knowledge on this vector space. So what I did the other day, I first tried to rectify your basic mathematical background. I tried to tell you what is a vector space. A vector space, as you know today, is a set of elements which satisfy some properties. For example, psi phi chi zeta theta that you can see here, they can make a vector space, and then those psi phi chi zeta theta will be called the elements of the vector space, or they are our state vectors. Only condition, they have to obey some properties. I actually illustrated everything with Cartesian system, and because it's a three-dimensional system, so number of vector space will be, number of elements should be equal to the dimensionality of the space. So 3D means there are three space vectors, three vectors are there, I, j and k, and every vector can be expressed as a matrix, and in the matrix the number of elements should be equal to the dimensionality of the space. So I matrix is like a column matrix 1 0 0, 3 into 1 column matrix, j is another 3 into 1 column matrix, 0 1 0, k is another 3 into 1 column matrix. So after that, what I did in entire last class, I actually spent in telling you how to exploit the Cartesian system, IJK system, in getting the properties, the property of vector associative law, property of addition, okay, associative law of addition, distributive law of addition, property of multiplication, the concept of scalar field, and out of that what is real field, imaginary field, or complex field, everything is illustrated. And when you multiply a vector with a scalar, you hardly lose anything, okay, you get a vector of same space, only magnitude gets changed. That those things I discussed, and at the end of it I discussed about the multiplication of vectors. Their major issue is that you cannot multiply, or you cannot take inner product of two vectors. The left hand side vector has to be a bra vector if the right hand side vector is a kate vector, so that you make a bracket. And these bra vector and kate vector are called dual vector. They are the element of the dual space of each other. Just like for kate I, kate j, kate k, there exists bra I, bra j, and bra k. So when you multiply, the left hand side vector will come from bra space, and right hand side vectors will be coming from kth space in case of inner product, and the product will be a scalar quantity. The other type of vector product that is possible, as you know, is the tensor product, where you multiply two vectors of same space and you end up with a vector of higher dimensionality space. So this is something I discussed. Now today we will progress with this concept. Okay. Now if you look at this, it's a very familiar picture to you. It is a normal Cartesian coordinate system where I have defined a point with a vector say r1. Okay, XYZ system. Okay, now so basically that black ball is a point, and we are describing this with a vector r1. So r1 is an arbitrary vector in three-dimensional Cartesian space to represent the position of an object, because that point marked in black ball, like a black ball, is basically a point in the 3D space. And you know, the space where we are living, so this space here, a point means position of an object, okay, indicated by the Cartesian coordinate system, maybe x, y, z, as you can see here. So basically what we are doing here, we are defining that point, maybe we may call it a point P, by some arbitrary vector r1. Okay, so what is the role of r1? r1 is a vector, r1 is a state vector in the three-dimensional Cartesian space, and that is defining a point in that space. So the message is that a point in a space, in the Cartesian space, could be represented by an arbitrary vector r1. Now how do you write down r1? If you look at the intersection, here r1 means 4 times x, that is I, j, k are the 3 unit vectors, and 5 times j and 5 times k, like that. So the idea is that you are using your r1 is written therefore as like 4i, 5j, 5k, their summation, where 4, 5, 5 are the coefficient of linear expansion. Okay, and you can write down this in this way. Okay, r1 is equal to ai phi I, where a's are like that. Say here this is I equal to 1, 2, 3. A1 means 4, A2 means 5, A3 means 5, and phi I, phi j, phi k are like I, j, k, the basis the 3 vectors. So what you are doing, any point in that Cartesian space you are describing with an arbitrary vector r1 in this case, and r1 is expressed as a linear combination of I, j, k. Then I, j, k will be called basis vector of that space. And how many vectors I, j, k is, how many basis vectors are there? 3, because 3 dimension, 3 basis vectors I, j, k, and any point you are defining at as a linear combination of those basis vectors. So 4, 5, 5 are like in linear are the coefficient of linear expansion, and the sum phi I is at the basis vector. So message is very clear. In a space, in a coordinate system, any arbitrary system, vector space, any point you can describe by a vector, an arbitrary vector, and that vector will be linear combination of the basis vector. Okay, so now I'll move from this three-dimensional space to the n-dimensional vector space. Okay, what do you do in n-dimensional vector space? Now if you come back to the previous case, this is a case of n equal to 3, and what you are doing, you are expressing a point by an arbitrary vector r1, which is a linear combination of its basis vector I, j, k, where the coefficient 4 stands for number of intersection with x, 5 stands for number of intersection with y, and 5 stands for also the number of intersection with z. So what these 4, 5, 5s are doing, there are some numbers, some coefficients of linear expansion. They together are defining the points. Okay. Similarly, when you move into the so I, j, k's are like basis, and they are the coefficients of linear expansion. And you see 4, 5, 5 are all real numbers, real coefficients, because that is defined. They together are defining a real position of an object, so they have to be real. On the contrary, in general, now I may say I can define any vector space, okay, of say of dimensionality n, and this is the case of n equal to 3, where you can, that means the message is that there also a point can be expressed as an arbitrary vector, maybe psi, and psi can be written as a linear combination of the basis vector. Okay, suppose phi i's are the basis vector, so any vector psi will be linear combination of the basis, like say running from 1 to n. So a1 phi 1 plus a2 phi 2 plus a3 phi 3 plus a4 phi 4 up to an phi n. This is the way you can write down psi. So what you are doing now, we are in a point in the 3D space refers to position of an object, as I mentioned. Okay, and there how do you define how do you do? A point is represented by an arbitrary vector. Arbitrary vector is physical meaning that it is position of an object, and it is written as a linear combination of the basis of that basis vectors of that space in Cartesian space, the basis vectors are ijk. Now those coefficients are real there because they are defining real position of an object. Now we are generalizing this idea. Suppose we are defining a vector space of dimensionality n, okay, where these coefficients are in general complex. So in Cartesian space they have to be real because they are real coordinate of an object. Now we define a vector space of dimensionality n, so you can write down any arbitrary vector r as a linear combination of the basis vector, okay, and as a linear combination of the basis vector. Then those ijk's, or those, in this case the phi i's, are the basis vectors of the space. Only condition is that those ai's in this expression, as you can see, the coefficient of linear expansion, they in general are complex. In general complex means 1 minus 1 plus I0, that is in general complex, okay. So they are in general complex, okay. So that is a message of the message is there. Any vector you can write down as a linear combination of the basis vector, okay, and if the coefficient of linear expansion are in general complex, then the vector space that you are forming is called a Hilbert space. So this is a new space we are now moving through. Hilbert space is a vector space where you represent an arbitrary vector, okay, a point with an arbitrary vector, and an arbitrary vector is a linear combination of its basis vector. So the message is clear that these basis vectors are, if they are phi I, so just like phi I1 means phi 1, I2 means phi 2, like that, and ai is a coefficient of linear expansion. So any arbitrary vector psi is a linear combination of basis pair means the coefficients of the linear expansion. But in general, okay, in general, is, if you could recall, if you look at the idea, okay, any n-dimensional vector space, therefore, if any point may be represented by any point may be represented like this, okay, in any n-dimensional vector space, any arbitrary point will be represented by an arbitrary vector. That vector will be linear combination of its basis set. That arbitrary vector may be the vector psi, as we got see here, get psi. It will be linear combination of all the phi's. Phi's are the basis set, and that ai, the coefficient of linear expansion, okay, that you may say it will be 2 phi 1, 3 phi 2, 4 phi 2, like that summation. So it indicates that I'm choosing coefficients of linear expansion as real, but in general this they may be complex, okay. So that is the idea. So an n-dimensional vector space with complex coefficient, as you know, is called a Hilbert space, okay. Now we move to a two-dimensional vector space. In 2D, how many basis vectors should be there? 2. Now let us consider one of the basis vector as 0 vector, 1 0, and the other vector as a 1 vector, okay, 0 1, okay. Now how this vector, okay, how we can define a point in this n-dimensional in this space? A point in this space is a linear combination of its basis vectors. So it will be linear combination of the 0 and 1. So it will be like alpha 0 plus beta 1. So this is the, okay, this is the as you can see here, okay, this is the psi is therefore it is defining it is an arbitrary vector defining a point in that space, okay, and it can be written as the linear combination of the basis vectors, okay. Just a second. So any vector psi, okay, is a linear combination of the basis vector. Then this arbitrary vector in a two-dimensional, in a vector space, okay, of dimensionality 2 with basis vector 0 and 1, there any arbitrary vector psi can be represented as a linear combination of a basis vector alpha 0 and beta 1. Alpha and beta, then the coefficient of linear expansion, okay, and 0 1 1 are the basis vector, and then this arbitrary vector psi will be identified as the wave function in quantum mechanics. It will define state of an object. Suppose an electron with upspin, it will be indicated by an arbitrary vector, okay, and okay, so it will be indicated by an arbitrary vector. Now in two-dimensional Hilbert space with basis vector 0 and 1, that point, okay, the base with the basis vector 0 and 1, that arbitrary vector psi is going to define the quantum bits. So a point in the Hilbert space is called the quantum mechanical wave function or state of an object, and that same point in the two-dimensional Hilbert space will provide you the quantum bit of an object. So this is the way we can introduce quantum bit, but let us discuss it in more length, okay, more detail. I'll show you how it comes actually, then it will be easier for you to realize. Okay. Concept of basis vector, as you can see on the screen also, that any point p1 is represented by vector any arbitrary point p1 is represented by any vector r1. R1 will be then linear combination of these 1 2 3 4 4i, okay, 1 2 3 3j. Okay, just a second. So it is like 4i plus 3j, 1 2 3 3j and 0k. So what I am doing, I am expressing r1 as a linear combination of its basis ijk. Okay, so if I choose any other point, say r2, look like this. So 1 2, so it is like 2 times I, okay, 1 2 3 4 5 times j and 0 times k. So I'm expressing any vector, any arbitrary vector. Say I may choose any other vector, say for example, say p3. Okay, this will be defined by another vector, say r3. So r3 will be linear combination of this basis vector. Say this is 1 2 3 4 5 times I, maybe 1 times j and 0 times k. So any vector r, therefore r1, you are writing down as a linear combination of the basis vector ai, okay, and phi I, where phi i's are the basis, and they are, say, when I equal to 1, I may call it this one, and ai becomes 4. Okay, when I equal to 2, that I may call this as j, and this a becomes 3, like this. Okay, so any vector, therefore you are writing down as a linear combination of the basis vector, where these ai's are the coefficient of linear expansion and phi i's are the basis vectors. Okay, they are the basis vector, and that is the beauty of this entire calculation. Now, so what I am doing in a Cartesian space, any point, any vector, I am writing down as a linear combination of its elements, of its basis vectors. Okay, these ijk's are the basis vector, and those 5 3 4 whatever you see, they are all real numbers because they are defining a real position of an object. Now what I am talking about, we are defining an arbitrary n-dimensional vector space. Okay, n-dimensional vector space. This is a 3-dimensional vector space. So any point here is described by any vector r. So what r is doing, it is defining a point. It's an arbitrary vector defining a point in 3-dimensional space, in 3D. So a point in 3D is defined by any arbitrary vector r. Okay, and what is the physical meaning of that point? It is defining the position of an object. So position of an object r is defining position of an object, is therefore linear combination, say 1 2 3, maybe 3 times I or 4 times I according to my drawing, maybe 1 2 3, okay, maybe 4 times j and 0 times k. So what I am doing, these are all real. So because it is defining a real position of an object, this has to be real. Now we are talking about an n-dimensional vector space where a point you are defining with any vector, say psi. It will be linear combination of the basis vector. So basis vectors may be phi i's, and this coefficient of linear expansion here, if you compare with this study, here psi is like r. Okay, phi i's are like ijk, and these ai's are like 4 4 0. So here am I, it is running from 1 to 3. Now I am just generalizing that concept. We are not restricting ourselves to 3D. Suppose we are choosing any n-dimensional vector space. Any n-dimensional vector space. In any n-dimensional vector space. Okay, n-dimensional vector space, how many basis vectors will be there? In 2D, how many basis vectors are there? 2. 2 bases are there. So this is like I and j. So in n-dimensional, how many basis vectors will be there? N number of basis vectors. N number of basis vectors will be there. What are those basis vectors? They are called phi i's. Say phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, phi 4 up to phi n. These are the n number of basis vectors. We may call it phi i's in general. Okay. Okay. The I is 1, I2, I3, I say up to In. These are the basis vectors. So here in n-dimensional vector space, how do you define a point? A point is described by, how do you define a point P in this two-dimensional vector space? As linear combination. This is by an arbitrary vector R. So here also it will be described by any arbitrary vector, by an arbitrary vector. Okay, it will be described by an arbitrary vector. That arbitrary vector you may call it psi. And the psi here, just like here R, is a linear combination. Suppose 1 unit, 2 unit, 2 times I, 1 unit, 2 times 2 units. So 2 times j and 0 times k. It is represented as linear combination of the basis vectors. So what are the bases? Like maybe a1 phi 1 plus a2 phi 2 plus a3 phi 3, so on up to an phi n. So any vector psi is therefore written as linear combination of the basis vector ai phi I. Okay, then this is called a basis vector. Okay, and these are the coefficient of linear expansion. Now an n-dimensional vector space, here key, these coefficients are all real, like 2 2 in this case. So a n-dimensional vector space with complex coefficient, these coefficients in general complex are called Hilbert space. Okay, suppose I consider an n-dimensional vector space. A point in this vector space is defined by a vector psi, which is a linear combination of the basis vector ai phi I. Now, if these AIs are complex in general, then this vector space will be a Hilbert space. Okay, so this is forming a Hilbert space. Okay, an n-dimensional vector space with complex coefficient forms a Hilbert space. Now, in Hilbert space, so this psi is a point in Hilbert space. This is defining a point in Hilbert space. And I can tell you a point in position space in three-dimensional Cartesian system, in XYZ system, a point in the space defines position of an object defined by a vector R. Now in Cartesian space, this is a point in the space, a point here defines state of an object, defines quantum mechanical state of an object. Okay, defines quantum mechanical state of an object. A point in the space defines quantum mechanical state of an object, and quantum mechanical state of an object is nothing but the wave function. This is nothing but the wave function. So the psi therefore refers to wave function of an object. So in Hilbert space, a point means wave function. Okay, so our Hilbert space, in Hilbert space, a point indicates a function. Okay, a point in Hilbert space represents a function. Okay, a point in Hilbert space, suppose I consider it's an n-dimensional space with n basis vector. Phi i's are n, phi 1, phi 2, phi 3 up to phi n. A point here is defined by an arbitrary vector psi. So here, which is written as a linear combination of the basis vector ai phi I, these ai's are in general complex. So this psi is a point in Hilbert space. These define our wave function. It is a point in Hilbert space. Okay, it is a point in Hilbert space. It is a point in Hilbert space. So what this point is doing? If this point is doing this is nothing but our wave function psi. Okay, this is a psi, the wave function, or quantum mechanical state of an object. So a point in Hilbert space is the quantum mechanical state of an object. Now we consider a two-dimensional Hilbert space. We now consider a 2D Hilbert space. So 2D Hilbert space means how many basis vectors should be there? 2. Now let that basis vector, one of the basis vector is 0 vector and another vector is 1 vector. Okay. So in this, suppose this is the two-dimensional Hilbert space. So in this here, a point is implies quantum mechanical state of an object. Quantum mechanical state of an object or wave function of an object. Quantum mechanical state or wave function of an object. Okay. Now suppose this point may be a vector psi. So psi will be linear combination of the basis vectors. Suppose alpha 0 plus beta 1. So I am expressing any point here by an arbitrary vector by linear combination of the two vectors 0 and 1. Okay. Then alpha are the coefficient of linear expansion. And these ones, these 0 and 1, these 0 and 1 basically are the basis vectors of the space. So I repeat it, I have taken a 2D Hilbert space with basis vectors 0 and 1. So a point here implies a quantum mechanical state expressed like this. Now the information is that a point in 2D Hilbert space which is defining a wave function is called a quantum bit. So quantum bit is it's a wave function. Quantum bit is a quantum mechanical state. It's a point in 2D Hilbert space which is expressed as a linear combination of the basis 0 and 1. So quantum bit is not a number. Quantum bit is not a voltage value. Quantum bit is a function, wave function of the system or quantum mechanical state of an object. So how do you realize quantum bit? That is an issue now. Okay. So therefore, these are the two basis vector. Now 2D means they can be expressed as the, suppose this is as a matrix. So this is the matrix is maybe 1 0 and this matrix may be 0 1. 2D means there will be two elements in the matrix. So if I consider a point here, this point is representing the wave function of the system, and a wave function at a point in 2D Hilbert space is called the quantum bit. Now it will be linear combination of 0 and 1. These are the coefficient of linear expansion. Now the probability of occupying 0 state, okay, suppose 0 means electron with up spin and 1 means electron with down spin. Okay. So probability of occupying 0 state is given by, that is electron with up spin state is given by mod alpha square. And probability of 1 state is given by mod beta square. Suppose I have got an okay. Probability of the upspin state or the 0 state is alpha mod alpha square, and probability of the down state is mod beta square, two quantum mechanical state. But total probability has to be 1, so it has to satisfy a condition mod alpha square plus beta square equal to 1. So now therefore you can say so therefore now we can say in this way that therefore the psi is therefore alpha 0 plus beta 1. Now suppose my alpha is 0. Alpha 0 means because of the condition mod alpha square plus beta square equal to 1, so beta has to be 1. So your psi then convergence to 1 only. So that means my quantum bit, that point in that two-dimensional Hilbert space psi is only referring to the one state. So this is one state is therefore a quantum bit. Now suppose beta is 0, then alpha is 1. Because of this condition, alpha square plus beta square equal to 1, so psi will be 0 state. So that means my quantum bit, a point in the Hilbert space, is now electron with maybe up spin, 0 state. So 0 itself is a quantum bit, 1 itself is a quantum bit, but that is similar to the classical computation, like the classical 0 and 1 and 0. But the dissimilarity is that in quantum computation, it is not just 0 and 1. You have to only satisfy this condition. So any other combination of alpha and beta, suppose you are choosing, say alpha is equal to 1 by root 2 and beta is equal to 1 by root 2. So their combination will also be 1. So now your alpha psi is equal to 1 by root 2 0 plus 1 by root 2 1. You see, this is an, if you plot it, this is an intermediate state. So your psi is now a mixed state. Okay, this is also a quantum bit. So the point is that unlike to classical computation where there are only two numbers are allowed, zeros and one, here 0 and 1 are not numbered, they are quantum mechanical state. So by superposition principle of quantum mechanics, so not just 0 and 1, there any combination of these zeros and 1 is also an allowed quantum mechanical state or a quantum bit. So number of quantum bit is not just 2, it is enormous. Only thing you have to obey this condition. Any combination of these alpha and beta, so that which makes it 1 ultimately, then it is an acceptable psi. So number of wave function, number of quantum bits are high. Okay, the idea is that the number of quantum bits enormously high. Okay, enormously large number of quantum bits are there. The number of quantum bits are very high, very large. Okay, so the psi, the quantum bit alpha 0 plus beta 1, you can choose any combination of alpha and beta. One combination alpha 0, then your quantum bit is the 1 state. Beta 0, then your quantum bit is a 0 state. But apart from that, you can keep on varying alpha beta and you can generate numerous number of quantum bits. Only condition is that you have to maintain this condition. Total probability is equal to 1. That is the prescription of mathematics. So psi, the number of quantum bits is enormous. Number of qubits are enormous, enormously high. Okay, are large, very large. There is no limit actually if you maintain this condition, are enormously large. Okay, so that is one of the advantage of quantum computation. Okay, number of quantum bits are very large. So accordingly, everything will change. First, how do you realize them? Second, how do you get this intermediate state? Okay, obviously it is completely in difference with the classical computation. If I just make a difference with the classical computation and the quantum computation, okay, the classical computation of the binary system that you know and the quantum computation, the main difference is that in classical computation it is binary, two numbers are there, and in quantum computation number of quantum bits are enormous, because here classical computation these are numbers and these are actually wave function, quantum mechanical state of an object. So by the laws of quantum mechanics, if you mix them, you can each and every one is a quantum mechanical state. So the psi is extremely high, as I was mentioning. So it's a huge advantage if you compare to classical computation. If you mix zeros and ones, you get nothing beyond that zeros and one in classical computation. But here every mixture is a new state, new quantum bit. So it gives you a lot of freedom when you will be obviously quantum logic gates are all different. Okay, now another point is how do you realize these zeros and one? These 0 and 1 in classical computation are basically high and low, off or on, this type of concept. Okay, because these are voltage values. But in quantum computation, say these zeros and ones, we may realize these zeros and one not with voltage values. We will be realizing these zeros and ones. 0 may be upspin state of the electron and 1 may be electron with downspin state. Okay, spin state of the electron will determine the quantum mechanical state. So 0 may be the upspin state and 1 may be the downspin state of the electron. So these up and down are the state of an electron. It is referring to an electron in certain condition. So basic physics is different. So when we will be realizing these quantum gates, altogether different story. So quantum gate, that is our next point of discussion, are altogether different. So therefore, we have to learn them. Okay, how do you? First thing you have to learn that how you can exploit electron spin to represent the quantum bit. Because most important issue is that it is not electron spin in two different configuration. Up and down is known to us. Electron with up spin configuration may be replicating the zero state. Then electron is like a small magnet. It up spins maybe state may be replicating zero state, or down spin maybe one, or anything you choose. Point is that it is not just up and down. Their intermediate states are also the allowed quantum mechanical state. How is it possible? We have to learn that. But all the hints are given in this formula. You please look at the formula. Formula means the concept of total probability. Total probability, one, this gives you a green signal. This gives you some information. You see alpha square plus beta square equal to 1. If you see, essentially this is the equation of a sphere. Circle. So we can actually imagine an hypothetical. Okay, this is a circle. Okay, first it was in 3-dimensional sphere. Okay, now in this sphere, if I suppose I choose a circle, I choose a circle here. Okay, my drawing does not suggest it. Suppose it is a circle. Now suppose this circle, I just draw it separately. This is the circle. Suppose one of them, suppose this is one state and this is zero state, or you can do this also, anything. Suppose this is zero state and this is no rule is there. Now the idea is that probability of zero state is mod alpha square. So and probability of one state is mod beta square. So the idea is that any point here, if I look at the circle, this is 0 and this is 1. Now any mixed state is a mixture of these two. Only condition is that alpha square plus beta square equal to 1. So you can define a circle with unit radius therefore. So idea is that any value of alpha and beta, okay, suppose this combination maybe say this combination maybe psi 1 equal to alpha 1 0 plus beta 1 1. Only thing you have that you have to satisfy this condition, alpha square plus beta square equal to 1. Suppose I choose any other point here, say this may be psi 2 equal to say alpha 2 0 plus beta 2 1. Only thing you have to obey this condition. Suppose any other person, you see all the points, because this is 1, so combination, so mod square of alpha square beta square equal to 1, equation of a circle. So any point, if you define a circle of unit radius, any point which is a mixture of alpha and beta, suppose this is psi 3 is maybe alpha 3 0 plus beta 3 1. Any point here, suppose this is another point psi 4, which is a mixture of alpha 4 0 plus beta 4 1. Any point here, therefore replicating, okay, one quantum mechanical state, and all these are nothing but the quantum bits. So how many quantum bits you can generate? Enormously high. Every point on this sphere is on this circle is a, or if you think in terms of the sphere in that large, that is called, okay, that Bloch sphere representation, that is going to be a qubit. Okay, this is called Bloch sphere representation in quantum mechanics. Okay, this is the Bloch sphere representation in quantum computation. So, but one thing is sure, as I mentioned, that this is mathematically right, but practically speaking, we have to get it. Okay, I have to get this spherical, I have to generate this sphere in real sense. Say, as I was telling you, that if you have to generate this sphere in real sense, then this is your 0 spin up, and you may say this is your 1 spin down. Okay, but you have to generate this circle. Okay, that means you have to produce this intermediate state. Okay, this is your psi, this is also a quantum bit. Okay, this is psi equal to 0, this is psi equal to 1, but you have to produce this mixed state, alpha 0 beta 1. So that means not just up and down, intermediate rotation of the electron spin is also important. You have to get electron with intermediate spin. Okay, so how do you get it? How to get it? So read it, to understand it, okay, we have to learn a bit more about electron spin first. Okay, so just let me get back to the PPT. So this is what I told you just now. Okay, two states. This is the total probability 1. You can see here, just now I told you alpha 0, beta 1, okay, 1 zeros are similar to classical computation, but beauty is the mixed state. Number of qubits are enormously high, okay. And this is whatever I told you, okay. Alpha 1, beta, say alpha 0, beta 1 is a 1 maybe. Alpha 1, beta 0 maybe the 0 of classical, very similar to classical computation. But intermediate states you are producing, you see it is rotating. Say now it is done, okay, you see. Any rotation, various combinations are coming, okay, up, down, okay, that is like 1 and 0, as you can see here. Apart from that, also all are in many intermediate states are possible, okay, as it is shown there. Many variety of combinations are there, as you can see there. You see the beautiful picture of Bloch sphere representation, okay. This is a point on the sphere is a quantum bit. All those blue dots are quantum bit, okay. So this circular equation is coming because of alpha square plus beta square equal to 1 equation of a circle. But in general, if you define a sphere, okay, a variety of angle, okay, because why? Because alpha beta is a complex quantity, not just a number. So if you in 3 dimension, if you define a sphere, okay, any point on that sphere is going to represent a quantum bit. Number of quantum bits are enormous, and whatever I told you, that circle is generated. You see all those blue dots are quantum bit, okay. They are all intermediate states. 0 is up, 1 is down. You can see that 0 is there, 1 is there, and all the mixed states are coming, okay. And how do you realize quantum bit? Electron spin. Is spin of electron, you can see there, as I have shown you, electron spin is rotating, okay. Spin of electron is going to give you the quantum bit. You see electron spin up and down, okay, is going to give you the quantum bit, okay. Up spin is there, down spin is there, and many intermediate rotations are there, okay. Many are intermediate rotations are there. You can see there many intermediate. Now it is, please see, it is up now. Now it is going towards intermediate states are generated, okay. Now after that it will be down, okay. It is all are down now, okay. All the intermediate states are generated. Classically we know only up down is possible, okay. Now you see all intermediate states are possible. All of you please see, okay. You see up is there, up spin maybe 0. Now it will be intermediate states are produced, okay. So many states you can produce actually. You can see there in the left hand side picture also. Apart from up and down, all are mixtures of up and down. Up may be 0 or down may be 1 or anything you wish or anything you choose, okay. So all these things are coming. So this is the way you can generate actually. But before that, we need to focus a bit on electron spin. We will do that in the next video lecture. Thank you.